Good evening and welcome to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Tonight we are live from Studio Vanguard and we are linked in with the following repeaters.
McDonough, Flagship, Columbus, Peachtree, Noonan, Rome, Lula, Watkinsville, Zebulon, Salicoa, Dallas, Ocala, Fort Mountain, Cades Cove, Lookout Mountain, White Oak Mountain, Mount Roosevelt, Chattanooga, Georgetown, Ottawa, and our VoIP service, Zello.
Tonight, our RF coverage encompasses approximately 26,240,000 acres. This net takes place every Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. I would like to thank everyone who has made the North Georgia GMRS the most expansive and active GMRS network in the country. Your net control tonight is Atlanta 946, WQIR 514. My name is Justin.
And this is WRWM 344, Blue Ridge 63. My name is Mike.
And Atlanta 750, WRMR 367. My name is Jeff.
On the net, you can talk about your day's activities, radio equipment, or anything you think we'd like to hear about. This is a family-based network, so we encourage you to get your family involved. Guest check-ins are welcome from anyone with a valid FCC call sign. Once the floor is open, it is permissible to address other members of the net by their name or tactical unit number. Your FCC call sign is only required when you sign in and sign out of the net. Also, you can tune into our YouTube channel. We're live tonight. Follow along, or even better yet, tune in after the net to watch your appearance on the show. You can hear how you sound to us right here in Studio Vanguard. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment so we know you are watching. These interactions mean the most to help our new channel grow. What's our topic tonight?
Talking about emergency communications.
Okay. Emergency communication. We've talked about emergency food and water storage. And we've talked about emergency power. We've also talked about, what was last week's topic?
Last week was emergency power.
And then we also talked about backup radios and stuff. But anyway, the conversation this week, I think, needs to be around having a plan for communication. So if we're in a grid down situation, who are you going to talk to, and why? We've put a lot of time and effort into exploring our simplex communications, but if we're really in a bind, man, you got to think about that PTT button and let's break. You got to think about that PTT button and what attention it might draw. So having a plan, having an understanding what needs to be conveyed, and having worked out a handful of things ahead of time can keep those transmissions short and make it difficult for anyone to find out where we are. And so let's talk about how we can do that and maintain our operational security while we also utilize radio communications. So in a nutshell, I think that's about it. All right, Jeff, is Kate coming with us tonight?
No, we don't have any ladies with us tonight.
Nope.
Those are the missing puzzle pieces.
No condiments. And so we are also without any tips. I think with that, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into taking additional check-ins.
Before we do that, part of Kate's segment would have been, let's briefly mention what's going on Sunday.
What's going on Sunday?
Well, actually, we should back up. First, what's happening Saturday?
Saturday.
Yeah. So Saturday is the monthly Youth Net right here on any North Georgia GMRS linked repeater at 7 p.m. So gather your kids and your grandkids, and all they need is an FCC call sign to participate in the North Georgia GMRS Youth Net. Do we know what the questions are?
They are on Facebook. I can pull them up.
I think what will you dress up as for Halloween? And do you know what the second one was?
I'm digging for it. Hang on.
I think the second one might be backup emergency crayons.
Who's the spookiest Halloween creature?
Oh, that sounds more like it. Okay. All right, so Halloween costumes and the spookiest Halloween creature. All right.
So that'll be for the Kids Net on Saturday at 7 p.m.
And then on Sunday, we can get all the rabbits out of the holes and tune in for a special presentation of the rabbit hole. You'll be sure and tune in on Saturday because the topic is a great one. And
You mean Sunday?
On Sunday, well, the topic on Saturday is a good one too. But on Sunday, we'll be talking about hurricane relief efforts, and I think that's a very timely conversation. And if all goes well, we'll be live streaming for the first time the Rabbit Hole Net.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I think that'll be a great one. I tell you what I like about that the most is if you can't tune in on Sunday, you can watch it
Watch the
over
replay
and over again after
2
the
days
fact.
later.
So I'm really excited about the Rabbit Hole coming to the live stream, and if we get enough viewers, maybe we can make this into something semi-regular. So be sure and tune in for the Rabbit Hole on Sunday. What else do we have for announcements?
And I do believe the Rabbit Hole folks have requested that if you have any questions ahead of time for the hurricane relief, that you put them in the Facebook post. I believe that's where Lisa would like them.
Actually, I haven't seen her post, so but if that's what she's asking for, please do that. Go ahead and comment your questions right on that post, and give them a chance to process that. They're going to have a couple of, well, at least one, and possibly two special guests. So go ahead and make your questions on that so they can get that addressed and help kind of expedite the program, because it could turn into a lengthy program if we spend a lot of time with Q&A on the air. So if you can get your questions in ahead of time, that might help tremendously. All right, and I think, as far as our monthly lunch gatherings, most folks know what that is. The Chattanooga, the Northeast guys, are they meeting at a different place this month?
I don't know. I didn't see any updates with regard to any of the luncheons, to be honest, this particular week.
All right, if we catch anybody from the Chattanooga area, we may ask them that question. And then I think the Northeast bunch is meeting at their regular date and time. The Rabbit Hole Gang will do their Taco Mac thing at the regular date and time. And I don't think those guys in Stockbridge will have their breakfast at their regular secret location and regular time. So any questions about any of those things, keep an eye out on the Facebook page, and hopefully we'll have a better script for announcements next week, and be able to provide better detailed information. So is that it for announcements?
It looks like there's one more on the Facebook page already from Dana. Do you want to cover that for the volunteers he's looking for?
Go ahead.
So for the Friday night at 9 Simplex Challenge, Dana is looking for, Atlanta 250 is looking for some volunteers for an upcoming relay event. Details, all the details and the areas in which they're looking for volunteers, Dana's got a post up on the North Georgia Facebook page, but the relay event will be December 13th that he's particularly interested in. So you've got a little time, but reach out to Atlanta 250, Dana, if you'd be willing to participate in some travel to cover a few areas that he's looking for.
Well, you got John, Gainesville 58 also. They work together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Gainesville 58, Mr. Simplex.
Yes.
All right, that's it.
All right. Well, with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a break here, and we'll come back for some check-ins. So let's go ahead and get things started and see if we have any additional Zello check-ins. So we're looking for Zello check-ins only. If you're using a radio to check in, please hold your traffic. We'll come to you here shortly. But currently, let's see if we can get some Zello check-ins on the roster.
This is Atlanta 342 WRZA 947. David incoming, checking in and out.
microphone's great.
That's the magic of live shows and doors open, and Mustang guy's sure to be along soon.
Are you holding the spot under
No.
Chuck? No?
No,
Okay.
I just didn't want to hit delete and screw up the formula.
Oh. Jason. In Ottawa.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge what we have. We have some YouTube check-ins in the mix, so let's get those knocked out. We have Ocala38 John is checking in on YouTube. We have a guest check-in from WRZG694. Rick is checking in on YouTube. Also, WSDA272 Jason checking in on YouTube, and Atlanta 104 Brian from Social Circle also on YouTube. We have Atlanta 342 David incoming is a YouTube check-in, and we have he's a live check-in.
He's a Zello check-in.
A Zello check-in.
Yeah.
And then we have Atlanta 256 Chuck in Dawsonville is in and out, and he's a check-in from left field, I think. Yeah, we'll go with that. Looks like we also have Chattanooga 69 Ronnie in Las Vegas, and
Looks like Ronnie also gave us an update on lunch from his bunch. There is no lunch in Chattanooga this month.
okay, no lunch this month in Chattanooga. All right, that's good to know. Thank you, Ronnie.
Oh,
And
ignore that next one.
yeah, because Double Dana's
Yeah.
he's already doubled tonight.
Double Dana already doubled.
Yes. All right, so that's where we're at. Let's continue with check-ins from any repeater anywhere except the flagship machine. Net control standing by.
This is WSDD 600 checking in. Shay from Columbus, Georgia.
I butchered that call sign.
This is
I don't know. It might have been 840. I'm not sure.
This is Atlanta 850 WRUN 660. Checking in, checking out from the Columbus repeater.
JG on McDonough.
SEM 980 Lee in Maryville, Tennessee.
WSCM.
This is WRKK 629 Chattanooga 84. Check me in, check me out.
This is WSBW 497, Chat 139, in and out.
I mean, not only. What will wait for? Amelia? And what went in the eight and in and out? And oh, anyway, what will wait Bob? And what will wait Evan? Bill? What will wait Bob? And what will wait Evan and Noah? In and out.
You got Atlanta 514 on YouTube.
Yes. This is CW40 WRNX 752, checking in and out.
Gainesville 58 on YouTube.
I already have him in the log. He was like 5th to check in.
This is WSAL 368, Atlanta 263, Rogers, and Dunwoody on the Peachtree repeater. Check me in, please.
Dead key at McDonald's.
Oh boy. Group text like crazy.
All right, let me go ahead and acknowledge what we have here. We have Chattanooga 69. Oh, we already acknowledged Ronnie in Las Vegas as a YouTube check-in with information about the luncheon. There's going to be no Chattanooga area luncheon this month, so stay tuned for information about next month's check-in. Next, we heard, and we may not have the call sign right, so Shay, I might need you to call back and help us correct the call sign. We have WSDD 840 Shay in Columbus, Georgia, and we also don't have you as in and out, but that's all right. We can figure that out as we go. We'd really like to just know that we get your call sign right. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 850 Chris in Woodstock, in and out. I have WSCM 980 Lee in Tennessee is in and out. Chattanooga 84 Jim in Hickson, in and out. Chattanooga 139 Robert in Ringgold, in and out. Roosevelt 34 Amelia in Rockwood, in and out. Roosevelt 35 Bill in Rockwood, in and out. And Roosevelt 37 Noah in Rockwood, in and out. Also, we have Atlanta 514 Michael in Carter's. Oh, he's a YouTube check-in. All right. And we also have CW40 Robert in Nicholson, in and out. Atlanta 263 Rogers in Dunwoody is in tonight. And Atlanta 766 Jeff in Monroe is a YouTube check-in. And that's where we're at this point. So let's continue with check-ins from any repeater, including flagship. So Zello, repeaters all around, and the flagship machine, a.k.a. the double monster. Anybody wishing to check in North Georgia GMRS Regional Net, please call Net Control now.
This is WRYZ 968 Gainesville 100. Randall and Buford checking in, checking out, but we'll be listening. Have a great evening.
This is D600 Shay checking in and out Columbus.
Still didn't hear
And
it
he
all.
doubled.
He did say in and out.
Yeah, okay, we got that part.
But I thought he said 600 at the end, but that's the only thing I heard different.
This is WROB 245, Atlanta 849 Pamela, and Atlanta 848 Ernest in Duluth. We're in and out. Have a great net.
This is WRBG 415 Atlanta 11, John in Canton. Please check me in and out.
This is
Sounds like Houston.
BSCQ 998 McDonald 30. Checking me in and checking me out. Have a great night, guys.
This is WRER 451, Gainesville 417, William, Auburn, Georgia, checking in, checking out.
This is Atlanta 499, Philip in Ackworth, checking in and checking out.
SDG, Atlanta 469, checking in, checking out.
Steven, Chicago 60. W, SDH 971, checking in, checking out.
All right, let me go ahead and acknowledge this round of check-ins. We had Gainesville 100, Randall in Buford, in and out. Atlanta 849, Pamela in Duluth, in and out. And Atlanta 848, Ernest, also in Duluth, in and out. We heard Atlanta 11, John in Canton, in and out. We heard McDonough 30, William in Hampton, in and out. Gainesville 417, William in Auburn, in and out. Atlanta 499, Philip in Ackworth, in and out. Atlanta 469, William in Ackworth, in and out. And we have Toccoa 60, Steve in Baldwin, in and out. And we're filling one in right now. We have WSEV 637, Gene is a guest checking in on YouTube. And Atlanta 557, Ed in Kennesaw, in and out.
He's also on YouTube.
And he's also in and out. All right. And that's what we have at this time. Go ahead and continue making your YouTube check-ins and keep making comments. We'll respond to those as best we can during the program. And we'll look forward to seeing what you've got to say as we go. But again, tonight our topic of conversation is emergency comms. What do we say to each other when things are down, and how do we plan for this? So there's a number of things out there. I've seen the 333 plan, and I think the foundation of that is excellent. But I don't know. I mean, I'm certainly not going to come on the radio and monitor for 3 minutes at 3 a.m. On Channel 3 or any other channel for that matter. That's unlikely to ever happen. So the 333 plan, I think, in every case, is a good foundation, a good place to start from. But we need a little bit of clarification, a little detail. Let me break. A little customization for your application, and I think it could be different for a lot of us. So, like, for instance, people know that if they call out to me at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're probably not going to hear any sort of response. But it's not unreasonable for a response to come at noon or at 6 p.m. or maybe even at 9 p.m. So we may want to consider the 333 plan in its foundational state, but I think some conversation between our Simplex friends and neighbors is worth having before we get into a grid down situation.
So, for clarification, you're talking about emergency communications, aka like hurricane disaster type situation, not communications in an emergency like a car accident. Is that the topic for tonight?
Yes, that's right. And there again, if we're talking about car accidents, 911 is going to be 99% of the time the method for reporting a car accident. If you're trying to reach somebody on the radio to report a car accident, you're going to waste a lot of time in getting any sort of a response, because unless that person you're talking to happens to be in the same county that you're in. But if you're having a car accident in Hampton, Georgia, just outside of the racetrack, and you call out on the radio and I answer, in order for me to make that report, if I call 911, that call is going to get handled by the Cherokee County 911 center, and they may not even have any way to get a hold of the folks in Hampton. So that can add a lot of complication and a lot of delay, and it may be very challenging for me to find a phone number for the Hampton 911 center. Probably it's published and I could Google it and find it, but that's what I would have to do, is call the Hampton, what county is that in? Is that Hampton County? I would have to call that 911 center directly and then report that information. So
Henry County.
It is Henry County. Okay. So that kind of communication really is best handled by just whipping out your phone and calling 911.
But that's completely different than like a hurricane situation where radio may be the only means of communication.
Yeah, so
That's
I mean,
right.
nobody expected the storms to come through and just pound on East Tennessee and the Carolinas. We really that wasn't part of the plan, and so what I learned from that is that regardless of what the forecasts say, we need to have a stuff hits the fan backup plan. You know, we talk about a lot of these things on the rabbit hole, and these are all really good concepts that should get practiced. Let me break. You know, things like having a bag packed with some basic clothing, medicines, essential items that you can grab on your way out the door. You know, if the water is rising, I think the last thing that you should do is pull the stairs down and go up into your attic. Don't do that, because we don't know how high the water is going to get. If the water is rising, get out. Grab your bag, and if you have to get on top of the roof, or if you have to seek shelter on high ground, do that. Grab your bag and go. But you don't want to have a situation where you have to take 10 minutes to pack. That bag needs to already have your medicines, you know, a handgun, and a radio, and a handful of other safety items. You might want to have a basic first aid kit in there. You might want to have some advanced first aid, maybe a tourniquet. You want to have, but that needs to be ready all the time, day, night, weekends, weekdays, whether there's a storm coming or not, because it might not be a storm. It could be anything out of the blue that just wrecks your day. I mean, we had some pretty intense wildfires in North Georgia a couple of years back, and you know, we could smell the smoke from those fires from here. Who knows what the disaster may be, but being prepared for that, and also being prepared for making communications. If we're in a grid down situation, power's out, repeaters are down, it's been days, we don't know if there's going to be any relief. Who do we talk to? What messages do we convey? So, I mean, if you're well provisioned, you should be able to shelter in place for quite some time. But if you're short on supplies, maybe you need some help with water. Maybe you need some help with other resources. Also, we need to be careful about your situational security and not reveal too much information over the air about what resources you do have. So you need to be careful about how we convey what we need and where we are, and maybe have a lot of these things worked out ahead of time, like now, so that when trouble does come our way, we truly are prepared. So that was what I had in mind for tonight's topic of conversation. And with that, let's go ahead to the top of the list. And I'm going to start off right here in the room with Blue Ridge 63. Mike, do you have any thoughts on how you would convey an emergency situation if we were in a grid down situation? You didn't know I was going to call on him.
I didn't know you were going to call on me. No, you're right. Yeah, I think depending on the nature of the emergency and the nature of the message that I needed to convey, more than likely I'd reach out to someone specific, someone that I know that I can reach on Simplex, which up in the Blue Ridge area is not very many people, unfortunately. But I'd reach out to someone specific and address that to, say, Uncle Mike, for example. I know I can reach BR549 from the house. And again, depending on what I needed or what the message was or the sense of urgency behind it, I'd either ask for help or I'd make my circumstances known, or ask him to get a hold of someone else, whatever the case may be, depending on that circumstance. In a longer term, power is out for 2 weeks. You want to, or at least I want to check on, a few people and have regular intervals in which we check in. And to be honest, I should do a better job of putting a plan together for that, and what that looks like and how often and on what stations or channels, just to have regular communications. Hey, you doing okay? Do you need anything? Everything all right down there? But that's really the value in what I think Dana and Jonathan do on the Simplex Challenge every Friday, is help you to figure out who those Simplex neighbors are. Is that a good answer?
That's a great answer. And I think as you pointed out, those Simplex Challenge, it's more than that. It's about finding out who your Simplex friends and neighbors are.
That's right.
But we have to do more than that. Not just map out who we can talk to, but meet with those people and establish a plan and have private discussions about resources and what you might have, what they may have.
Yep.
And then we can work as a community and share those resources within. Prepping and preparedness is just that. But no matter where you start, you may have lots of ammunition, but you may not have much food. You may have lots of water, but you don't have any ammunition. Whatever your situation might be, ideally we'll have plenty of all of those resources, but maybe not. Let's break. So, that's, I think, what I want to drive home here is that let's do the Simplex operations. Let's do that testing, and let's find out who we can reach. But then let's take that a step further offline, and let's establish some advanced relationships so that if we're in a situation where we're facing Helena scale catastrophe, that we're not waiting for FEMA to show up.
That's right.
We're handling our business, and we're taking care of our own, and maybe we're taking care of some of our neighbors too. But that's really the direction that I was hoping that we could go. So with that in mind, let's continue on, and let's go on next to Gainesville 58. Mr. Simplex. Jonathan, do you have any comments for the net tonight?
WRXM 922, Gainesville 58. Good evening, y'all. Yeah, I just want to touch a little bit on what you've already mentioned. Utilizing that Simplex buddy, finding that friend. Even if you can't get on with us on Friday nights on ball grounds, still test it out. Reach out, see who you can get a hold of. It's really important to have that Simplex buddy and make that map. We tell everybody it's very important to have that, Google Earth, any one of those platforms, and put down all your Simplex buddies. Let me break. And once you have those people on there, another thing that we just thought about here recently, print out a hard copy of that. Have a copy of that. Put it in your go bag. Because when it's chaotic, a bad situation's going on, whatever it may be, you may, not remember exactly who's the best person I need to reach out to. Well, now you have that hard copy. And, that's important. So, that's more or less what I had to say. If you can, join us on Friday nights. Try to practice that Simplex, and it really is important.
Yes, it is. And any important documents that you want to stuff in that go bag, throw them in a Ziploc bag inside of that go bag. Squeeze all the air out of it so it doesn't take up any more room than it needs to. But if that bag gets wet, those documents can be protected. You might spin the antennas off your HT and throw that in a Ziploc so that if that bag gets wet while you're trying to bug out, your equipment's going to be protected. Just something to think about. Maybe throw a couple of 4 or 5 Ziploc bags in there so that on the fly, if you determine that you need to make something survive a wet condition, you can just do that. That's one thing I love about Ziploc bags is that in a lake, on a boat, in a kayak, you can protect things from just stuff your wallet in there and keep it dry so that any cash that you have won't become soggy. And I mean, you can still use it when it's soggy. It's just not very convenient. So Ziploc bags are cheap and they don't take up much space or make much weight, unless you think you need a whole box of them. So good idea and great suggestions. And I can't emphasize enough, being prepared is more than just being able to take care of yourself and your family. We also need to consider what resources are indirectly available, and that's a great way to do that. Thanks for that, Jonathan, and appreciate your input tonight. Next we have Chattanooga 206, John in Dandridge. John, do you have any comments for the net tonight?
Yeah, you actually gave me a pretty good lead in on what I was going to ask. I realize that you said there's going to be some more in-depth topics on this weekend, but just I might actually be out in the midst of it, so I was wanting to know. I'm pretty squared away with me and my family, and we've got a simplex and also some options for using local repeaters if that's still available to communicate. We practice. We know about where we can reach each other and where we can't in our normal routine past the we both my parents and me both keep food and water, and I've got some friends and coworkers that I have bought GMRS radios and talked them into getting the license. Some of them actively use them, some of them just keep them sitting in drawers. But I was wanting to ask, when you get out into the world, and if you don't mind, let me break real quick. Situation like we've got going on right now, where there are people who don't have access to food and water or power or communications. If you were going out to provide some support to people, being a first responder or maybe a person who's coming in and helping rebuild the infrastructure, as a GMRS and ham radio user, I don't have, I've just got my tech ticket at the moment, so I don't have any DX type of ability, but what are some ways that I could help provide communications to those people out in the world, people that I don't already have a relationship with?
Solid question.
Well, in a grid down situation, kind of like the folks in East Tennessee and the Carolinas experienced, communication is a tremendous challenge. And it's really because radio is very local. When you're talking 2-meter radio, VHF, UHF, that's not something we can really expect to be able to convey messages over distance. So you're really limited in these bands and these modes to the area directly around you. So that's what we have to plan for, and that's what we have to be prepared for. If you want to help out the folks that are in the next state, then you can look at some of the things that come with your general privileges in HF radio, and maybe be able to pass messages and things of that nature that way. And I'm not specifically aware of, but every time these things happen, there are dozens of stories of hams that were able to put family members together to make sure that people were safe in the light of the disaster. And at the same time, there's dozens of circumstances where attempts were made to make those connections and failed. So it's not really a guarantee that we're going to be able to make that contact, because that contact might not be there. Or maybe that contact just simply isn't available to be reached in that mode.
Well, I mean, to elaborate on that a little bit, too, it's really kind of a crapshoot. Even with HF, you get hundreds of thousands of frequencies that, us as a ham operator may be trying to honestly help, but the receiving station needs to be on the same frequency and be listening for you.
Well, and as conditions change, your coverages may change. So that's one thing that folks don't realize a lot of times. In GMRS, a channel is a channel, and once you're there, and it's not really going to be that different throughout the day. In the evening, it might get different, but for the most part, it's pretty solid communications path. But in HF with distance, you may be able to talk on 20 meters on one part of the day, and be on 80 meters later because of changing conditions, or that path is gone altogether. And now you have a great path into a completely different region, but you can't talk where you want to because the conditions have changed. So being aware of things like that and having a plan to maybe transition as a contact station for those that are in need of help, maybe transition to another area that does have a good condition to get into that region as the weather changes, as the solar radiation changes, as all of those things come into play. Let me break. So radio communications in these situations, in my mind anyway, really is most effective in a very local, very regional, simplex kind of a footprint. I think that the hope that you'll be able to get messages out over amateur radio over distances is valid, and certainly worth a try. And for those of us that are not in the epicenter of such an event, we definitely should fire up our stations and try to listen as much as we can, and see if we can find anybody that needs our help. But you'll spend hours hearing almost nothing, and moments can make the difference when you are there to maybe pass a message or arrange for someone to make contact. So those contacts don't necessarily even happen, immediately, especially when you're trying to contact family members that are not hams. Mm-hmm. So it may take some time to make that connection and come back and report that, yes, they are safe and sound, and they can be found at a shelter, or they can be found at a fire station, or they can be found at a neighbor's house, whatever that might be. But vital stuff, and definitely something to be thinking about in how you might utilize your station should such an event occur. So good stuff, and that was a great point. John, did you have anything to follow up with?
That's about it. I know, I don't know what's appropriate and what's not. I know in cases of emergency, sometimes it's all right for non-licensees to use radios. For a situation where it'd be appropriate, because I have a bazillion GMRS radios laying around that I keep charged up. Is it okay to give people those in a bad situation like that, or should you just try to provide the communication for people like that? I'll leave you guys with that question. That was about all I was wondering. Thank you. Great response, by the way.
Well, that's another great question, John, and it's one that comes up very often. I can't tell you how many times I see people say, all bets are off in an emergency. And so, then let's face it, if that's the situation that you're in, and you need to be able to hand a radio to somebody and send them up over to the top of the hill to see what's going on the other side of the ridge, you might do exactly that. And who's going to be there to say anything or do anything about it? But quite honestly, I would resist that. I think being a control operator for non-licensed people is a good position to be in, where you can control the radio and you can convey the message. That's the right thing to do in that circumstance. But I'm not the one whose house just got washed away, and I'm not the one who's facing hurricane strength winds. I'm not the one in those shoes. So when that time comes, you might do what you want to do. In light of the events that have just happened, if I heard somebody calling out on a radio and they didn't have a call sign, I would likely respond to that person. But if we didn't have, such a major catastrophic event that happened just days ago, and I heard somebody calling out on the radio without a license, I would be a little bit reluctant to even respond to that, because you got to think, if this person hasn't invested in getting himself licensed with a valid call sign, is this person legitimate enough to be trusted, or is this person baiting radio operators and setting a trap to ambush you when you bring supplies to help? So I think we have to use a lot of suspicion and character judgment on a case-by-case basis, and just go with your gut, because if there's something suspicious about that contact that doesn't have a call sign, it scares me to think what people might do in order to be able to gain access to the resources that you have. So just a word of caution for non-licensed operators. If I thought it was a legitimate emergency, that somebody was in danger from a currently active storm situation, that might be a little bit different than a couple days after. So there again, just use your judgment and be cautious. Thanks for all that, John. And with that, let's move on to McDonough 22. Tim in Stockbridge. Tim, do you have any comments?
Well, yeah, I suppose. Good evening, gentlemen, and everyone on the net. I don't have a lot of specific plans in place. I'm not in a place where I can use simplex all that much. The one person I know I can reach by simplex is McDonough 39 Bruce. But if the actual bovine waste material hits the old electric rotating blower device, then all bets are off. I'm going to be looking for any outlet I can find to get in touch with somebody. I don't worry about flooding here. I'm on a very high place. It would take biblical proportions type flood, for water to reach my front door. And I live on a pretty good sized plot of land here, and my landlord live next door. I'm kind of in the middle of a chicken farm. We got cows and goats, and so I don't think I'd ever run out of eggs to eat here. I do have a go bag, and I've got backup radios, so everything is going to be kind of in flux. It's going to depend on what the actual emergency is, what resources are available, after that emergency takes place. Everybody's going to have every incident is going to have individual circumstances. If it's a tornado, if it's a hurricane or flooding, fire, incursion by foreign power, whatever comes up is going to require a different set of response there. So, we just be as prepared as we can with our food and water supplies and protection supply. I'll just put our armory, whatever that may consist of, be as prepared as we can in all those areas. And then, it's like, they say in war, the first once the first shot is fired, if I could talk tonight, once the first shot is fired, all plans go out the window there because everything's in flux. So, I just do have ham radio now. I have some ham repeaters available down here. I'm part of emergency planning committee for our local ham radio club down here, and we're actually putting together plans now for how to respond to things like that. So that's something that's in flux and in progress right now that we're making plans for the Henry County area, and possibly maybe Rockdale and other adjoining counties down here. So we got some pretty good plans going on. We got a lot of good people down here. They're just all spread out. So simplex isn't going to help me a whole bunch. I do have that 333 thing on, in the back of my mind just in case. Might try that out if the circumstances requires it or suggests it, whatever. But anyway, a lot of good points tonight from everybody, and so I guess that's about it for me. I'll throw it back to net control.
Yeah, very good. And as I mentioned earlier, I think the 333 plan is a fantastic foundation. But I think that it needs to be refined with you and the local folks that you might communicate with, and let's set some parameters. Don't waste battery trying to tune in to hear me call out at 3 o'clock in the morning, because I'm not going to do it. I'm probably not hungry or thirsty enough at 3 a.m. to need you to come and help me. Maybe I am, but I think that call could probably wait until morning. But if it's a zombie apocalypse and I've got the Walking Dead at my door, maybe I do need to call out at 3 a.m. So I don't. I think that we should maybe have some kind of a planning session with our neighbors. And the other thing that Tim mentioned was having some kind of an emergency plan group with the county. And this is an excellent opportunity, really, for all of us. Check in with your local amateur radio club, because those are the folks that are most likely going to have contacts with county authorities. And whether it's a RACES or it's an ARES or any of the other, the Georgia Oxcom, any of those emergency communications organizations, you can volunteer with those groups. You can get some training with those groups, and you can become an insider and have a little bit of access to government information and knowledge, because you're passing messages and you're involved at a deeper level than the rest of us would be. So that could be something of interest and an important source of knowledge if you become involved in some of those groups. And just check with your local amateur radio club, because most of them have some sort of interface with the county to provide auxiliary communications, assistance for search and rescue, many interfaces and opportunities to engage with your local municipality and cooperate in terms of communication. So I think that's a great source. I was hoping Bobby would be on here to talk a little bit more about, was there a spider? There was a spider.
Holy cow. Jeff about
Oh my
jumped.
golly. That was fantastic. Let me break.
Got him good.
Oh.
Oh.
So for the audience here that didn't get to see that, Jeff just about leaped out of his chair.
He did leap out of his chair.
Yeah. And almost flipped it over. It was fantastic to see out of the corner of my eye, because Julie was stalking around the corner. Are you here to do tips?
If you still want me to.
Yeah, I think so. That's all right. If anybody...
First I need a defibrillator.
Yeah, you're fine. If anybody objects to Julie doing tips late, keep it to yourself. All right.
Welcome, Julie.
Thank you.
All right. So let me break, and I'm going to hand this over to Julie for Julie's tips. Do I need to pull it up on the screen, or do you have it?
I could read it on my phone if you want me to.
All right. All right, let me break, and we'll hand it over to Julie.
What mic is that on?
3.
What mic is this?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I got you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Hold on. Where's my tips? That was the best.
I thought it was a chipmunk or a mouse or something crawling on the back of my neck.
I didn't touch your neck. I touched your finger.
Whatever. My fingers were on my neck.
That's fantastic.
I wish the mic or the camera would have been on Jeff.
Well, it was. It just wasn't on program.
Oh.
We'd have to go back and pull it from.
Oh, we should do that. We should pull it from the ISO.
Do you want me to hit my own button?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's get ready for Julie and Julie's tips. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
So, this is WQIR 514. My name is Julie, and I'm Atlanta 947 with this week's new user tips and operating procedure segment. This week, we will revisit the topic of intentional interference, what it is, and how we want our members to respond to it. Where's the camera? I don't...
Right here, this camera.
So, examples of intentional interference are blowing into your mic, persistent kerchunking, extended dead key, and feedback. We refer to it as intentional because no one does these things accidentally, and interference because no one wants to hear it. There are other forms of intentional interference, such as keying up with maximum power whenever someone else keys in effort to override the other person's signal, or playing sounds, recordings, and or annoying noises over the network. Sounds familiar? I remember a time when you had something pretty annoying that it sounded like a clown horn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's intentional interference. Glad we got rid of that.
We didn't.
Oh. Well, North Georgia GMRS Network has some tools to defend against such interference, but it takes time to collect enough evidence to have a case we can hand over to the FCC. We do collect evidence, including recordings of network traffic, and we create a file in case we need to present it to the FCC. Fortunately, it's never gotten that far. When we hear interference, we listen for specific tells. We will compare what we hear to regular traffic, and when we have a good comparison, the investigation goes further. If the interference continues, we will make contact with that person in hopes to resolve the issue. If we can't come to a reasonable resolution, then we are prepared to hand over our recordings, logs, and notes to the FCC. Let me break. As a member of North Georgia GMRS Network, you have a role to play when these people misbehave. First and foremost, do not give the jammer the satisfaction of his efforts. The worst thing we can do is empower that person by acknowledging his actions are having an effect. We should endeavor to continue the use of the network, and rather than saying someone keyed on you, just lightly mention that there was some interference. Always play it off as though it's no big deal. Mentioning over the air that someone keyed up all over you empowers the perpetrators and offers them proof that they can command the network. If the conversation is truly overwhelmed by interference, sign off without mentioning why and come back on the air later. The second thing we want you to do is to note the date and time of the event and send it in an email to support@NGGMRS.org, and we'll log the event. Include as much information as you can. We can pull the tapes and review these events in a studio environment for careful analysis. Let me break. Most importantly, never give the jammer a win. Endeavor to remain on the air despite the jammer's efforts and play it low-key to show his efforts are ineffective. This is how we defend our network against intentional interference, and this is how we become the best operators on the nation's largest, most advanced GMRS network. And remember, if you have any questions or suggestions for new user tips and operating procedures, send me a note at julie@NGGMRS.org. We are North Georgia GMRS Network, and this is WQIR 514, Atlanta 947. Clear.
Well, fantastic and timely advice in light of recent events. So hopefully we can handle these issues and be able to continue enjoying this great network. So good stuff, Julie. Thank you for that, and glad you made it back safe and sound.
Yeah, had a great time.
Fantastic. Georgia Aquarium?
Georgia Aquarium, and we ended it with the sea lion show. We were in the front row. I was drenched from head to toe. It was awesome.
Fantastic.
That sounds great.
All right. Well, very good stuff.
Yeah.
I'll let you get back with our granddaughter.
Zoe. Yep.
We'll come play with her again. Well, I mean, she's staying for the weekend,
She's staying for the weekend.
And I will get you back for that prank. It's only a matter of time.
There was a spider.
You know, I just want to say there is no even, Jeff, so you can try.
Well, you just took the gloves off is all you did.
Good night, everyone.
That was fantastic. Good night, Julie. And thank you once again for coming in and interrupting our show. It was a great interruption. So where were we? We just spoke with Tim. Next on our list is Atlanta 250, Mr. Double. Dana, did you have any comments regarding the subject before Julie came on board related to emergency communications and the messages that we might convey in that scenario?
Well, I'll start off by saying good evening, guys. Justin, Mike, and Jeff there. Julie, big hello. You're probably already out of Vanguard by now. What I want to talk about tonight, guys, is why we do relays. And relays are going to be in an area-wide situation or a regional-wide situation. Relays are going to be the only mode of information transport. Let me break. Now, we do it as a contest type of environment, and we make it a little bit of fun, and but hopefully we learn how to perform in a relay when it hits the fan. And it's going to be this next one is going to be a huge one, biggest one the network has seen so far, from Knoxville all the way down to South Georgia. And during an emergency, that's how you're going to get information, maybe of loved ones or just news of what's happening. Let me break. Almost like a reconnaissance type of thing. Now, in a relay, it takes a whole lot of listening and a whole lot less of talking. But when you do receive a good piece of information, whether it's about yourself, your neighbor, or you're just going to pass it on to the next station, it's an important factor. And I can't say enough about the footprint maps. It's not the person you talk to far away on Simplex. It's the person that's 5 or 10 miles away. That's your what we call your radio buddy. And let me break. Those are the important folks that you want, and I encourage everybody to do or to make your footprint map. The footprint map is going to be an extraordinary piece of material that's going to help you out in the greatest time of need. And then I'll follow up just by saying PTP. If you got a plan, if you've made a plan for you and yours, practice it in your mind. Practice it physically. Practice it with your neighbor if it involves them, as Justin says. So that being said, Net Control, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and thanks for everything you do.
Well, good stuff, Dana. And yeah, I have to say, I think that the practice the plan is a great mantra for emergency preparedness and communications. But I think that sometimes the plan is a little bit vague. And like, for instance, the 333 plan is an excellent foundation. It's a great place to start. But between you and me, we need to work out the details of how you and I can make the 333 3 plan work between us, because if you're expecting me to answer you at 3 in the morning, it's not going to happen. And I think that's reasonable. So maybe it's not the 3-3-3 plan, but we still utilize those same time slots. We just choose which ones make the most sense in our situation. And if it is a zombie apocalypse, maybe the 3-3-3 plan is perfect just the way it is, because I'm not going to get any sleep.
Well, zombies don't come out in a day.
Well, yeah, I'm probably still not going to get any sleep. So I don't know enough about zombies to know how they behave. I trust that is all fantasy, but who knows? It's a crazy world. But I think the Helena situation is the one that we really need to be concerned about, because that shows us that these things can happen to anybody. No one is immune from a natural disaster. And maybe the natural disaster that we have to face isn't a hurricane. Maybe it's an earthquake. Maybe it's something else. But whatever that might be, maybe it's an unnatural disaster. But whatever that might be, if we're trying to figure it out on the fly, then we're not prepared. And so what I want to convey is that this is a good foundation and a good place to start, but let's refine this so that we have better access to resources, that we have better access to reinforcement, and better preparedness for what may come. Because who knows what that is? I'm sure there's a lot of people in the Carolinas and in Tennessee that thought they were prepared, and this caught them off guard. So that's, I think, what we need to be banking on in our minds is what is the left field here? What is the big surprise? What is the unexpected? So thank you, Dana, for that, and thanks for all the work that you put into making the Simplex Challenge the fun thing that it is, and also the educational and informational event that it is. And for those that are unable to participate in Dana's Simplex Challenge, I would invite you to engage in your own challenge locally, so that you can establish those connections well in advance of an event. Let me break. And definitely check out the relay that Dana has planned. I think it's kind of like the telephone game, but it's not a game, and it's vitally important to be able to pass a message. So this shows us that we can, or that we cannot, and it also gives us an opportunity to determine how accurately that message can be passed from one portion of the network to the next. So
if at first you don't succeed, skydiving may not be for you. That was the secret message on the last relay.
Yeah, and I would take that to heart.
It's good advice.
I like to get it right the second or third time, so I will not be trying on a parachute unless it's the last resort. So yeah. Not a game I want to play. So with that, let's move on to Atlanta 935, Dwayne in Canton. Dwayne, do you have any comments for tonight's program?
Yeah, Justin, thanks. Just a little quick background on me. I was on the national catastrophe team for a major insurance company for 13 years. So we responded to the Northridge earthquake. I've seen just about every kind of natural disaster you can imagine. We were one of the first teams on the ground at Katrina. And one thing that we learned there is even when the cell phones don't work, texting on your phone does. So that always sticks with me. And we weren't able to have regular phone communication back then. We used satellite phones. Let me break. And Justin, what you said about being a member of ARES, Amateur Radio Emergency Services for your community, and CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, I'm a member of both of those on my county, and you really get a good insight into emergency communications. You can actually participate in that. and both of those organizations, I actually am one of the volunteers that deploys to the Emergency Operations Center. So, you literally have a seat at the table and know exactly what's going on. So, very, very good bit of advice there. Let me break one more time. So, when it comes to what's going on, the response in North Carolina, I came across a repeater that's on the internet. It's the N2GE repeater. Frequency is 145.19 megahertz, and it's on broadcast. And I've been listening to it, and this repeater is actually the highest repeater east of the Rockies. It's a 2-meter repeater, and the main net control person, her name is Vicky. Her call sign is 83I. She's been net control, but she's doing net control on this repeater from over 100 miles away. And just listening to how people are responding to this catastrophe, and how they're coordinating, patching traffic, distributing radios, setting up repeaters, handing out a lot of things, but they're being very intentional about it. They're only, giving the ham program radios to licensed operators. Let me break. And they're setting GMRS repeaters and networks up too, and they're distributing those radios to the people who, are able and should be properly operating those. So they're being very intentional about it. It's very interesting just to basically observe what's going on and learning a lot. And I encourage anybody that has time, spend some time listening to that, because they're doing it. It's happening right now, and they're doing it in real time. And I did include a link to that repeater on the Facebook page under the post for tonight's net. So that's all I got, and then thank you all. Thanks for having the net and for everything you do.
Well, very good stuff. And earlier the question was raised. I think it was John that had asked about how to get involved and be an effective contributor with radio. And I think that's the key is having that training and that information and that engagement with your county, your local emergency communications group, whatever that may be, whatever title it may carry. They all serve a purpose. And sometimes, those groups are out there and they're engaged in traffic control. They're engaged in auxiliary communications for an event. They're just out on the grounds with their radio and at the fair or whatever it may be. And if they see something, they can report it. And volunteering in that way is a great exercise in how you convey emergency communications. So I highly encourage anybody that has the time and the ability to get involved in whatever your local community emergency group might be. And they carry a bunch of different labels. They really all do very similar work. There are differences, but the goal is to be able to serve your community with your radio and enjoy that hobby at the same time, giving something back to your community. So good stuff, Dwayne, and great information on that 2-meter repeater. Really like to know more about that, and thanks for bringing that to us. Next on the list, we have Atlanta 935, Claire in Canton. Claire, do you have any comments for the net tonight?
Well, hey there, Justin and Net Control and everyone listening. Super excited to be in tonight, and I feel like I have so many thoughts, but I'm going to try to consolidate them to be legible and understandable, because they're not always understandable in my own head. So, anyway, I love the topic of emergency preparedness, especially being able to work in kind of a little bit of an industry where emergency response is something that we do a lot. And I just wanted to reiterate and reemphasize what somebody mentioned earlier about having that plan written down. Let me break. But having that plan written down, and as you've discussed it with your key group of people, is something that's so vital and so important. And I am a college student, so often I'm away from home, and so especially with your distant family members, people who might not have as many resources available to them in an area that they are, apart from where you're at, having some sort of plan that you guys can go back to and follow, like an SOP, standard operating procedure, is what's going to help you in the long run. Because just as someone else mentioned earlier, I missed the who it was, but when stuff hits the fan, when things go wrong, when you have an emergency, adrenaline is going to be high. You're not going to be in your normal state of mind. Somebody else might not be in their normal state of mind. And so having something that you can reference that's laminated, it's waterproof, it's easily accessible, and your system, an emergency preparedness system, is easily deployable is what's going to help you in the long run. Let me break. But also that just helps in emergency response anyway, because once again, when it's an emergency, it could be for anything, and it could be with any issue. Just the other week, I was lightly concussed, and because of the concussion, like, my memory wasn't as good, and so it's super important to remember that in an emergency, it could be something that has debilitated you a little bit, or something that has kind of taken away from, like, your normal level of operation. And so having something that you can reference to always be sure that you and the other people in your support group are going to follow the same set of procedures, and no one's going to be forgetting some pretty important pieces and parts of it is it's really important. So just wanted to reemphasize that, and love the topic tonight, guys. So looking forward to listening to the rest of everyone's comments.
Well, that's a great suggestion, Claire. And I'll tell you, just the process of writing something down, getting it down on a piece of paper, makes it far more real than just discussing a plan. And so many times we work out our plans verbally, but we never really have a written guide. I can tell you for sure, the level of detail in organizing an event like Jeep Fest required a lot of documentation. And Jeff had put a lot of time and effort into providing for communication, providing for contact information, providing for scheduling, for providing for specific tasks that various individuals would do. So, you know, having a written plan is a huge value. And I think that, you know, even if it's just something simple like, you know, instead of 3-3-3, let's do 9, noon, and 6. And maybe that's enough. Conserve the battery. You know, if there's certain circumstances that require more communications, we can work that out on the fly. Or when we make our 6 p.m. Contact, if you think there's going to be a need for follow-up, hey, let's go ahead and plan on the next one at 9 for tonight. And but those are things that we can work out on the fly. Having a written plan and knowing what the expectation is a great idea. So thank you very much for that, and for bringing that insight to the group. Not sure, I didn't hear the story on the light concussion, but I hope it was very light, and yeah, be careful. We got to take care of our bodies. It's the only one we get, and you know, things happen, but be careful. So glad that you seem to be okay, and we'll look forward to hearing that story. Next on the list, I have Atlanta 1402. Todd is going to tell us all about his emergency communications plan.
Good afternoon, good evening, Net Control. Well, Claire's... Sorry about that, ladies. Good evening, Net Control. Claire's kind of a tough act to follow, for sure. And Claire, I can tell you I've been concussed multiple times. Thankfully, it was a long time ago in my high school years and playing various sports, but it's no fun. But let me break. We can say, you know, we've done a whole lot of things to get prepared for our comms, and Dana's been very helpful in that on the Simplex, and Chris and I have our own plan here, but have a couple of other guys in the neighborhood for comms, but I really need to get my extended family members a little bit more bought into the radio comms, but you know, they're not really interested. And they don't see the urgency that I do. But and Dwayne was mentioning about what was going on in Western North Carolina. I've been following that just a little bit on the web STR, and well, that's a prime example of how the radio community can assist. But anyway, I don't have a whole lot to add, Justin, Jeff, Mike, but it's a great topic. Back to your net control.
Oh, very good. And I got to tell you, Todd, when Julie was reading those tips, I was reminded of your efforts earlier in the day. I sure enjoyed the comments that you had.
Yes.
Jammer shaming.
I picked that up too.
That was fantastic. Good job. So, all right, Todd. And yes, I think that's where we're at is, all the work that we've done in the Simplex testing and the Simplex challenge is all of value, but it gains far more value when we go to the next step and reach out off the air and reach out to those people, whether it's at a monthly luncheon or it's at, just a friendly visit at a coffee shop or what have you, and start building a relationship so that in the circumstances where things do get rough, then you've got resources to draw on. And I'll tell you, there's some people that are just never going to have an appreciation or an interest in radio communications, two-way radio. It's very nerdy. It's what's the point, and that's cute. It's all very nice, but it's silly. Is it? I mean, who expected the catastrophe that we are seeing unfold in the Carolinas and in East Tennessee? I didn't see that coming. None of that was talked about prior to that storm, making landfall. It was a big surprise to me the next day to hear about and to see the mess that had been made. And then some of the videos were just absolutely amazing how much carnage and damage was done, and to be able to see the water lines on some of those buildings, just out of the blue. In the mountains, who would have expected that much water all at once in the mountains? I don't think it's ever been seen before. Somebody said it's not the 100-year flood; it's the flood of biblical proportions, and there's a lot of truth to that. Not so much that the whole world was flooded, but just that those areas don't ever get that kind of water, and but it happened, and so I think the message that people should take from that is, we don't know what the next natural disaster might be, and it doesn't matter if it's never happened before, because there's a first time for everything, and if we can't convey that message to our family members, then we just have to take it upon ourselves to make sure that preparations are there, and that our family is at least protected the best of our abilities. And Todd, I know that you do that. So good stuff with that. Let's continue on and see if we have any comments from Atlanta 263 Rogers. Rogers, go ahead.
Well, good evening, Net Control and everyone. And Justin, my sentiment is exactly what you just said about radio still being valuable in today's society. I regularly practice the Simplex challenge, and I know my radio reach, so to speak. But my question is, what would you say to those people that along the lines of what you just said, that may not be into radio like that? They may not want to get a license. They may be slightly out of Simplex reach. What would you say to that person? Because I've been trying to convey to different, close friends and family members to get radios for emergency comms, but some of them don't see the reason to get it if they aren't able to at least reach on Simplex or
Timeout timer.
Yep, it got him.
Yeah, the timeout timer got you, Rogers, but I'll give you a chance to come back here just in case I missed anything. But, I think that what we say to our family members, and as Todd had pointed out, he's got family that's just indifferent, and for whatever reason, if current events aren't enough to make your family see the importance of what we're doing, then pretty much nothing will. And so if because this storm wasn't projected to go into Tennessee, that was not one of the cards that you could draw. I didn't see that coming ahead of time. Maybe some obscure weather channel talked about it, but I didn't see it. So there again, the importance of having emergency communications when a catastrophe strikes is just something that people may not be able to comprehend because they've never experienced a catastrophe. But for those that have, I would bet that if you were in Eastern Tennessee or in the Carolinas in 3 months' time, and start randomly talking to people about emergency communications, they would likely all have something to say about how prepared you should be for the absolute unexpected. But on the other side of that, Rogers, we live such comfortable lives. Our biggest grief is Atlanta traffic. Our biggest hardship are fuel and grocery prices. These are not big problems for us to have, and because we're so comfortable, we become complacent, and the potential, the thought of having to deal with a catastrophe just gets farther and farther and farther from our minds. So, yeah, that's a challenge, coming up with how to encourage people, how to educate people, and how to make them understand the importance of what we're doing. And if they don't get it, then they don't get it.
Well, I'll add to that, just even outside of the natural disasters and scenarios, are the occasional cell phone tower outages. A lot of people, when you talk to them about radio and they have a hesitancy, they think that the cell phone is always going to be there. It's always going to work because it always does. And multiple times this year we've seen that not be the case.
Yeah.
Where either locally or semi-nationally, cell phones go down. Your internet connection at home can go down.
And more of us are using cellular-based internet.
Yep.
And that that also is potentially something that could succumb to an attack, or an earthquake could knock out a lot of cellular towers,
or even just a software update.
That's right. And that has happened. So these are all things that I think can be used in conversation to help somebody maybe understand the importance of what we're doing. And meanwhile, if you can't get them to understand, then let me break. If you can't get them to understand, then you're going to have to take it upon yourself as the adult in the room to take those steps on their behalf. So if it's your family, they're not interested in prepping, they're not interested in preparedness, they're not interested in radio communications, make sure that you can handle all of those elements on their behalf as well as for yourself, so that when the what if happens, that's my euphemism for the thing that Julie says. When the what if happens, that you can handle the situation and you can be the guy that has taken the steps and can protect your family. So,
one more thing that I'll throw in that I heard on the drive down here tonight is, and I forget the member that was doing the test. It was an Atlanta TAC call, but he had somebody riding in the truck with him, and he was showing him the network, and he called out and talked to Dana, Atlanta 250, and was demonstrating it live for his friend who wasn't into radio, and he asked Dana, "Where are you at?" And Dana came back and told him, and that's a pretty good distance from where they were. And then William, Atlanta 420, got on and replied. And so this non-radio person that he was introducing, his friend, to radio, was able to hear instantly, a couple long distance or longer distance stations far out and about come back in crystal clear communications. And it just demonstrated, the value of the network, the power of the network, and the reach. So I guess I'll sum that up by saying seeing is believing. Rogers, if you have a hard time, show it to them. Let them see it. Let them hear some faraway places so that they can experience it.
Oh, yeah, and that's a great point. And that's something that a linked network is capable of doing, to a degree that you just simply can't do on a standalone repeater.
Right.
To be able to call out at any time of the day and get an answer is something that we achieve because we have a linked network. Whereas if these were all standalone repeaters, you may call out many times throughout the day and not get an answer. So that's one of the huge benefits that we have by having a linked network. So good stuff. Rogers, did you have anything to follow up with?
No, that was it. And like Mike just said, demonstration beats conversation. So I may just have to go about doing some demonstrations to my extended family and network there to get them a little bit more interested and to see the usefulness of it. But that's it for now. Thanks, guys. I'll be standing by.
Very good. Yeah, and if you have a mobile in the car, it could be just as simple as getting them to go for a ride with you to the gas station or to the convenience store, or, run with me to Costco. And while you're in the car and they're a captive audience, make out a couple of calls and make your demonstration that way. So good stuff, Rogers. And with that is the end of our checked in portion of the roster. So we're going to go ahead and take this opportunity to take one last round of late check-ins. And we're going to open the floor for any questions or comments from any repeater anywhere. Net Control, standing by.
This is
That sounds like Kai.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
McDonough 45, WSAI 254. Check me in and out. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Net Control. This is WRPX 682, Atlanta 451. Mike and Statham. Love the topic, guys. Great net. You guys have a good night. Checking in, checking out.
This is. Good evening. This is WREJ 857, Atlanta 516. I'm enjoying monitoring the net. This is Ray from Canton. I'm checking in, checking out. WRSB 696, Dallas 64. Josh in Dallas.
Dallas 64.
Check me in and check me out. Thanks.
Atlanta 849 comment.
If you would, please check in WRTS 814, Tacoma 33. And we're checking in. Good net so far, mobile northbound.
This is.
WRPT 435, Atlanta 374. Checking in, checking out.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge this round of check-ins. We heard McDonough 4-5, Kai in McDonough, in and out. We also heard Atlanta 4-5-1. Mike in Statham is in and out. Atlanta 5-1-6, Ray in Canton is in and out. Dallas 6-4, Josh in Dallas, in and out. We heard Toccoa 33, Matt in Pickens is in with us this evening, northbound. We also heard Atlanta 374, Lamar in Dawsonville, in and out. And we have Atlanta 849, Pamela with a comment. Let me go ahead and get Toccoa 33 and see if he has any comments for the net before he gets too far north. Matt, do you have any comments for us this evening? I'll come back to these YouTubes here in a minute.
Good evening, and ladies, I think there was somebody else in there. Just that, a couple things real quick. First of all, I'm on the Peachtree machine. That was a great fill-in for I-85 between McDonough and Jasper. So kudos to you guys for putting Peachtree in. Helps a lot. The other thing is, yes, we got beat up pretty good in South Carolina, up where I live, and nothing like, of course, in North Carolina with the water. But I will say this, amateur radio and GMRS radio played a huge part in the initial stages and extended stages. Of course, you're probably aware of the Blue Ridge repeater and how much they did and for support for the whole week. And, of course, Mount Mitchell is still going with the support that they've done on the amateur radio side. But an incredible amount of support with the two-way radio communications was pretty much put together, and the logistics of everything was worked out in that fashion because there was no other way to talk. Truthfully, let me reset.
That's very cool.
Can't emphasize enough the aspect of good two-way communications, and this network is a very robust network, and the advantage of just having repeaters. Our repeater system in the upstate of South Carolina is not linked, but people generally, because they're not linked, they have a knowledge of which ones they can utilize in their areas, and it works out. And they played a big factor during this whole thing. I think that's about all I have to say. And I guess I got a question at the end. Is Toccoa been reestablished on the link? And that's about it, gentlemen. I'll listen for your response. WRTS 814, Toccoa 33.
Looks like internet from Toccoa and Jersey still out.
Well, thank you, Matt. And yeah, the Toccoa machine and the Jersey machine are both down because of internet provider issues. So once the internet is restored, then those machines should come back to life. So that's our issue there. We do have some technology that allows us to bypass that, but those locations are just not really well suited for us to be able to make use of microwave shots. So we're dependent on other providers to make those repeaters come into the linking network. However, those machines are both up and operational in standalone mode. So hopefully the Toccoa machine has been able to help out with communications within that region locally. And hopefully, well, I don't know that Jersey is really in an area that is affected by the storms, but it could be. And I would hope that it was also able to help facilitate some communications in light of what's been going on. And I think the point that I'd like to emphasize through all of this, we all enjoy this great linked network. And as we were talking about with Rogers just a moment ago, because we have such a large linked network, the probability of someone listening is much, much higher than it would be if these were all standalone repeaters. So the likelihood of you being able to grab the mic and call out for a radio check and get an answer is very, very high. Alternatively, if these machines were all standalone, they wouldn't have as much traffic on them, which could be a good thing from certain perspectives. But at the same time, your opportunity to have an immediate response to a question, a concern, whatever it might be, also drops way off. So in an emergency, if we lose the internet, we'll probably lose the linking system. So if that happens, all of our repeaters would continue to operate in a standalone fashion, which is one of the reasons I like to emphasize local communications. Find out who your local simplex contacts are so that you're not depending on the linked network. And maybe you can still utilize the repeater, at least for a while. Most of these repeaters have some form of alternative power, but not all of them. Some of them are just going to go flat dead if the commercial power goes out. So there again, another reason that we should just really focus, not exclusively, but as a practice so that we understand what our simplex coverages are and that we understand who we can reach if the what if happens. That's the message that I most want to convey is as a part of preparedness. Let me break. As a part of preparedness, that we do the homework ahead of time, because as Claire mentioned, in the heat of the moment and the adrenaline is flowing, we're going to forget a lot of the plan. So we need to get in front of that and establish that plan today, before the disaster comes, this weekend before the disaster comes, next week before it happens. But let's not wait till next month, because who knows? Who knows what Mother Nature has in store for us? And if we're not prepared, then we're going to be a victim. And that's really the focus of all of this, is let's not be victims. Let's be people who can be self-reliant and be able to potentially help others. So good stuff, Matt. Drive safe this evening, and look forward to hearing your comments again real soon. Next, I'd like to go to, well, before I go to Pamela, I want to go ahead and acknowledge all of the YouTube check-ins that I missed. So where am I starting at? Is that your...
Right here.
At the blue?
The blue.
The blue. All right, so I'm going to start at Blue Ridge 549. Mike Barr up in, that would be Uncle Mike, BR 549, up in Cherry Log. Uncle Mike was on the air in between our first round of check-ins and our actual sign-up. And I think that somebody scared him from participating because they said that he had some noise in his signal. Uncle Mike likes to have a very clean, nice, strong signal into the repeater for net activities. So, Mike, we heard you, and I've got you in the log, and I know that you're listening, and I just want to say thanks for your support. Next, we have a YouTube check-in from WSWD. I said that wrong. WSDW 299. WSDW 299. Samuel is a YouTube check-in. Also, we have WRPH 337. Greg is also a YouTube check-in. We have Atlanta 364. Bruce, a YouTube check-in. Rome 12. Mark is also a YouTube check-in. We have Atlanta 947 is a she was actually a participant this evening.
The Spider.
With Julie's Tips, and a source of great entertainment. He doesn't have a lot of clearance between the ceiling and,
That's right.
and the top of his head as it is, but he closed that gap pretty rapidly. I don't know if any of that was aired on the live stream, but out of the corner of my eye, that was very good. So,
you ever seen the movie Harry and the Hendersons? It's very old movie, but when he's in the car and he makes the big dent in the roof, that's kind of how Vanguard is now on this end.
No wonder that speaker. No wonder you couldn't hear that speaker. But very good stuff. Was Harry like that? Was that Bigfoot?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that BR549 knows all about Harry.
So it's a very fitting reference.
Right. All right. And Julie came in with a late instance of Julie's Tips this evening, but glad we were able to get that in here. We have another guest. We have WRUJ962. Mr. Roman is a YouTube check-in from Idaho. We have Atlanta 14 Jeremy. right here in Woodstock as a YouTube check-in. WSBS 374 Mark is a guest check-in with YouTube. WSCJ 938 Diane is another guest on YouTube over here in Comer. We have McDonough. We've already checked. We've already talked with McDonough 4-5. So those are our. We have one more YouTube.
One more slid in.
We have WSEY 987. Chris is a YouTube check-in this evening. So with that, let's go to Pamela and get her comments. Sorry for the delay, but we definitely want to hear your comments this evening with our topic of emergency communications. But Pamela, what do you have to say?
Well, thank you guys. It's been a very interesting and boring net. I have to say, I understand the thing about spiders. They scare me to death. They do not like to be near them. They belong outside, out of my space. Anyway, earlier, Dwayne, Atlanta 933, I think I have that right, talked about that even if the cell phones go down, that you can still use the text and it still works. And that was one of my questions. And so I was glad to hear that. So I appreciate that information, Dwayne. Also, it just so happens, let me break. We were in the parking lot, 848 and I were in a parking lot at Lowe's, and one of the ladies we've been knowing for years by the vehicle and heard us talking on the radio. It turns out that her daughter is up in North Carolina, called Candler, North Carolina, and she lost power and water and everything, flooding, and had some issues also. She just got back power, but still no water and other things. But I gave her information, and she was really interested. She said, that's exactly what my daughter needs, something like that. Let me break. But when we checked out her location, she looks like she's not in the best location for communication. So we're going to see what we can find out that can help her to be prepared next time. So at least we were right there. It's glad to know that we can spur somebody on and maybe help them the next time to be prepared. So just thank you for letting me take this time, and it was really good. Thank you. Back to net.
Yeah, and that is, that is the challenge with GMRS radio, especially once you get outside of our network. Matt was talking earlier about the South Carolina repeaters and how folks in that area have learned, depending on where they are, which repeater to use. And there's a lot of value to that. And that also goes back to, knowing what your local contacts are. Because, if we do get into a situation where we lose the ability to link because the internet is down or whatever the reason might be, we still have a very large footprint of coverage from virtually all of these repeaters. And so there's population throughout each of these repeaters that still offer an opportunity for contacts. But you might live in an area that just doesn't have a high elevation commercial quality repeater. Sometimes people put repeaters up on fence posts. Sometimes they put them up on little backyard masts, and those machines just won't offer the same kind of performance that a commercial quality repeater with a commercial grade antenna and proper station grounding. These things make a difference in the performance of a repeater, and they're just not available everywhere because it's beyond the means of a lot of people to be able to put up a repeater of that caliber. So being able to establish relationships with tower owners and being able to establish that presence is something that took a lot of time and a lot of personal investment and a lot of effort to build up the network that we have today. It's just not something that can happen overnight in the Carolinas without significant funding and support. And we have that here, but it's just not something that happens automatically. So, and in our situation, this was a kind of a build it and they will come scenario. And Gary says that very often, that the concept was, let's put the infrastructure here, and then the users will come to make use of it. And that is what happened. But if you don't have access to the equipment to come by readily or cheaply, it might be really tough to be able to build out a network in that fashion. The availability of old repeaters is drying up. They're just not as common as they once were, and a lot of them are not in as good a shape as the machines that we typically use. Let me break. And so that just brings a challenge once we get outside of this area for repeater operators to continue putting up machines. And the incentive to continue putting up machines has been diminished here recently with recent events. But hopefully we'll get past that, and we'll be able to encourage others to build up their networks as well. So with that, I think, Pamela, thank you for your comments, and thanks especially for making that referral to your friend at the Lowe's parking lot. Seeing is believing, and learning about how a network like this works is it's very important. And we can't all go out and evangelize GMRS, but when that opportunity comes, I hope that no one will shy away from sharing with their friends and neighbors the value of two-way radio. And whether it's as a GMRS radio, whether it's amateur radio, there's opportunities all over the place to learn more about communication, to learn more about how radio works. It's just magical. But there's science, and there's technology, and there's just no end to cool things that you can do with radio. So definitely appreciate you encouraging your friend to look at radio and to look at GMRS in particular, and hopefully they'll become an enthusiastic user. So good stuff. Well, what do you think, guys? Have we left anything out?
I think we got it.
You think we got it?
I think that's it. We had one more YouTube check-in sneak in, Josh, but
well, go ahead and call Josh out.
So Josh is from Washington State. That's WRFB 597, tuning in on YouTube with us tonight.
Washington State.
Evans, Washington, to be exact.
That's a pretty good haul for...
he wins the award for the farthest check-in for tonight, anyway.
Well, thanks for checking us out and hanging out with us, everybody on YouTube and everybody on the North Georgia GMRS Linked Repeater Network. Glad to have you along, and we sure are glad that you have all contributed to make this the largest, most expansive network in the country. This concludes the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Tonight we had a total of
79.
We have 79 chickens tonight. Chickens? 79 chickens, including myself and the rest of Net Control. Net Control will now be returning the repeaters back to normal use. Everyone who signed in should sign out. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. And comments on the channel show engagement with with YouTube and help the channel to grow. Thank you for allowing us to serve as your Net Control this evening. Good night, everyone. This is Atlanta 946, WQYR 514. My name is Justin.
And this is WRWM 344, Blue Ridge 63. My name is Mike.
And Atlanta 750, WRMR 367. My name is Jeff.
Are we clear?
Yeah, good night, everyone.
Good night.
We are North Georgia GMRS Network, and we're clear.
Hey, hey, hey. Bye.